Hello and welcome to the Morningscape podcast. I am Matt Moody, joined by DJ Mitchell to cover the March 26th, Monday, NHL DFS slate. DJ, how you doing? I know we usually do this on Tuesdays, but how was your weekend?
It was pretty good and it was really good because I finished my 5 week weekend course. I was really stressed. It's part of the reason why I wasn't on last Thursday. I had a project that was due and 15 pages of papers due for another class. It was just a really busy week, but now I'm done with the weekend course, gonna graduate, and I can
Yay.
focus. I can focus on gambling, which is really where my heart, that's my heart is.
I think that's really
Also,
why we all go to college to get jobs and then gamble with that money.
and
So,
then gamble. Yeah. So
yeah.
right now it might sound different. I am currently on my phone because my laptop is not working. So it sounds like I'm at a loss for words sometimes. It's probably because I'm sorting through a lot of things just on my phone. Just gonna say that before we really get going here.
Yeah, I mean, your sound quality seems pretty good. So just, uh, blab on about whatever, whenever, as we normally do. So, before we get into the 9 games, I guess we may as well recap the Thursday slate. Well, other than not remembering too much about it, I think the main point of interest on that slate was the matchup between DJ and Doug on the Brandon Montour side of the Morning Skate Madness bracket. We made it to the final four, and DJ and Doug had a battle of the
I don't even want to
ages.
talk about it, dude. It's
Um, Good
ah,
lord. So, how does it feel to put up maybe one of the best lineups of the season for yourself and then just get blown away by Doug? Like,
I mean, the thing is like I gave up so early because Doug was up on me so early. I'm like, there's no way. And then all of a sudden I'm checking the scores. I'm like, wait, do I have a chance in this? And I'm looking, I'm like, holy crap. Like one more goal to go my way. I might actually swing this because I had Martin Jones, Burns, and Evander Kane. And of course, Evander Kane's the reason that I think I lost by about 3.5. It was like 50. I can pull it up quick, but of course,
yeah,
it's
well,
going to take
they
a little bit
got
longer.
they got robbed so many times
Yep.
too. Like that would have been a crazy live till if you were
Doug
watching.
had 56.3. I had 51.8. So like 4 point something. I thought it was 3 point something. But I mean, our lineups weren't even that similar, which is the funny part, I think.
Definitely. Yeah, they were really, really different, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
and I mean, I'm trying to. Okay, so Doug had Nylander. He had Anders Lee. I think was the most frustrating thing because he had like 0 points going into the third period, and then he had 2 goals in the third period, and I was like, oh my god. And I mean, obviously wrong division, but Ryan Pulock, and then you had Grubauer shutout, which was the goalie I was honestly planning on playing at one point, but I didn't. I think, yeah, I didn't quite have eight. I had 7-7 for goalie, so I went Martin Jones. Still a great take. I don't even want to talk about. I'm not mad. Still won money, but Doug in the final, the Cinderella story.
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to point out you guys each played 3 defensemen and got a combined 20 points from
Yeah,
the three of them. Each of you did. Like that is wild. So that was a fun little thing to sweat. I was talking to Doug meanwhile, and Pillock was having the game of his life, and Grubauer with the shutout. It was pretty cool. Meanwhile, in the much lesser contested other side of the bracket, I think I put up like 40 something. Yeah, 43, but it didn't really matter. Was not JR's best day. Caught some bad luck with that Washington snoozer, and obviously in that Berube just murdered him. So I walked pretty easily through that, but that leaves it to Doug and myself for the Morningscape Madness title. Looking forward to that one on Tuesday. But with that covered, let's go to Monday's 9 game DFS slate. Um, Before we jump in, always be wary of, at this time of the year, call ups and college signings. We'll, let you know as we are aware of it, but it's pretty much impossible at this time of year to keep up with absolutely everything and every team's plans. So always be cognizant of that when you're building lineups. So these 9 games, we've got Buffalo at Toronto, Florida at the Islanders, Ottawa at Carolina, Washington at the Rangers, Detroit at Montreal, Arizona at Tampa, San Jose at Chicago, Colorado at Vegas, and Calgary at LA. Anything you want to say before we go game by game?
No, let's get right into it.
All right, we've got Buffalo at Toronto. Um, Toronto welcoming back Austin Matthews. I think for Thursday he was back. Um, we noticed William Nylander go from 4.4 all the way up to 5.4 already. Um, I personally think there's still a decent amount of room for his price tag to grow, but I'm not sure if he's a must play at 5.4, but I think he's still a very, very strong play. Do you think this run of production in the 2 games that Matthews is back is about the standard going forward? 5 shots plus a point. Is that a reasonable expectation for Matthews or for Nylander in this matchup?
Um, I like the stack. I like anything against Buffalo right now, like literally anything. So I'm down with it. Yeah, the price jump isn't great for it, but I do like it. I think it's gonna be a nice game to get contrarian though. If you're gonna go with Toronto, because I think they'll be a bit piled on. Maybe considering Marner Kadri, I'm pretty sure they were still together, although I can't get the lines right in front of me right
They
now.
were. Yep.
They were. I really think I'm gonna lead down that path. A lot of people might also be on JVR. He's been really hot. I don't mind that take either. He actually got a little bit more minutes in the Detroit game comparatively to his normal kind of like 14, 15. So I don't mind that, but a lot of people I think are going to be on Nylander's Matthews and Nyland. Yeah, I said that right. I might get away from it, but I like it. It's not nothing against the stack. I just want to maybe get contrarian in this game.
Yeah. I can see that. I don't really know if there's one, specific chalky spot though. Like, Marner was 10% on Saturday's slate. Just pulling up JVR and Nylander kind of as like the 3 points of comparison across the 3 different lines. JVR was also 10%, and then Nylander was 14%. So, I'm not really sure that there's one spot that's going to be contrarian over another. Um, but I certainly do think if you are going to attack it, to make sure that you are, you know, getting maybe a concentrated correlation rather than going like Matthews with Kadri or something that really doesn't have the chance to get you like multiple points on a goal. I don't think that the ownership will be low enough to where that's like a viable strategy. I think you kind of have to, um, definitely stack like one of those lines. If it's any of the 3, honestly, are fine, but
Yeah.
just make sure that you're getting those correlations. And also that applies to the defenseman. Last game, Riley was on the power play with the Marner JVR Kadri unit, and Gardner was with the Matthews Nylander unit. I think that should be a definite thing that you look at for if you're going with a defenseman here. But with that said, are you looking at any of these defensemen? I know Morgan Riley's been, he's been pretty good lately, but he's all the way up at 5.7. Does he interest you, or maybe someone even like Ristolainen on the other side, up in the mid 5K range?
I really don't think I'll target defenseman from this game unless if I'm really stacking up on Toronto. But that price tag on Morgan Riley is a bit steep. I mean, he's kind of point dependent. As of late, his floor has been there. I think he might develop into more of a floor guy. The floor has been there, I would say, as of late, and that's why his price is where it is, definitely reflecting it. But I don't trust him all that much. Buffalo is just awful. I feel like they might try to slow the pace a bit as the best they can. Toronto, I do think wins this pretty handily, and I just don't really plan on I don't think I'm gonna have too much from this game. I guess 'cause I think Toronto's gonna be really piled on. So I might just get like a couple, like one lineup with Toronto in it. I don't think I'll have defense.
Yeah, I mean, what I like about this is that none of these Toronto lines are going to be extremely expensive. I mean, obviously, I think the most expensive guy is Matthews, and outside of that, it might be Minor at 6.1. Okay, JVR
JVR,
6.7.
yeah,
So I guess that's a little bit too high for me, but I like stacking Kadri and Minor just because it won't cost you all that much. Like, versus the Kucherov Stamkos, you're saving a solid 3,000 in on DraftKings salary. So I could definitely see myself going here. If I had to pick one, I think I'm going with the Matthews Nylander just because the generational talent of Matthews. I
yeah.
think I trust that a little bit more.
Oh yeah.
But you really can't go wrong here. Anything from the Buffalo side, I keep wanting to play Sam Reinhart, as fishy as it may sound, but he's just been smashing repeatedly. The floor numbers have been there, but I don't think 6,000 is I just don't think that's a smart play.
I don't think it's playable. The Sabres are on what right now? I think they've scored 2 goals in the last 4 games. They've been outscored, wow, 8 plus 8,
Yeah, they're
16-2 in their last four
yeah,
games.
they're
Really bad. I mean, obviously though, like yeah, like they could bounce back any game now. Might get a win. Who knows? I mean, there could be a couple of college kids that end up coming into this lineup and maybe giving you a touch of a boost, but I don't like them in this matchup. I much more a fan of considering, let's see, yeah, Anderson's the most expensive goalie. Probably not even considering him. I don't even think he'll see enough shots. Yeah,
I
I have a
mean,
total fade.
this weekend the Sabres put up 43 shots on the Rangers. I mean,
Maybe
that's
Anderson's in play. I don't know. Honestly, I wouldn't. I bet there will be people that end up getting in a little bit on Buffalo, but they've really spread the minutes out. Like they've been rolling 4 lines just because. I mean, I don't even know. They're just
because
so
they're
bad.
just losing.
It
Yeah, they're
doesn't matter
just
at this point. And then Ristolainen is the only guy that's seemingly getting like a bit of a jump just because he's playing so much power play and penalty kill time. I mean, Brandon Gooley's the guy that I have rostered as like a punt on defense. I do think he's going to turn into a pretty good DFS asset down the line. Maybe next year he's a guy early on to keep in mind. Where he has 3K, power play 2. I just feel like he could become a good DFS player. And I mean, he's shown that he's not afraid to shoot the puck. I'll say that much.
yeah, no, he's definitely getting involved. But let's leave it there for. I'm not really looking at any Buffalo personally, but Gooley is a fine, punt if you're looking for it. Let's go to Florida at the Islanders. We mentioned Thursday's heroics between Pollock and Lee for Doug's lineup on Saturday. That really that came crashing to an end. They lost 3-1. It was 2-0, I think, up until the very end of the game. So I think that's when Tavares maybe salvaged. But definitely, I think right back on that horse in terms of up-paced games for Tampa. Florida has been one of the more exciting teams of the last month or two. So I think we could be in for some more fireworks here. The expected goals model has, well, not model, but over the last 10 games, both of these teams rank firmly in the top half on teams in the slate. Um, so if you had to go with like a top end stack between the Barkov line or the Tavares line, DJ, do you have a lean which way you're going at this point in time?
Um, wow. Honestly, that they're both such great plays tomorrow. I do think I'd probably go with the Barkov line. I think there'll be a bit more. I just love Barkov. I just really think, like, I don't know if you had to put like Barzell and Tavares out there and said like which one's better. I still think it might be Tavares, but I really love Barkov and Dadonov. I think that they're just sensational plays every night. I mean, it's really hard right now for me to look at I'm looking at the lines and I'm trying to pull up the prices. Yeah, no, I thought that Islanders guys have been priced up around Tavares a bit, not crazy, but definitely a little bit. Um, but I know it's more expensive, but Barkov Dadonov I think I like more.
Yeah, I think what's been interesting is that really at the beginning of this run, Barkov was basically the shot leader on the team. Like every night, it seemed like he was putting up 4 or 5 shots. Um, he's been taking a back seat a little bit to guys like not necessarily Dadonov to an extent, but definitely Nick Bukestad has just been shooting the crap out of the puck. So I think this elevated price for Barkov, given his like general shift in like actual shot usage is a little bit concerning, which leads me a little bit towards the Tavares stack. But I really do, I think you put it pretty well. Like obviously this line is incredible. Barkov is great, but I think I'm going with the Tavares Lee Bailey. You're still getting a little bit of savings there, and I don't really see them switching anything up at this point. Obviously they could, but you know I think I'm going with the Islanders side. Are you jumping on a 5,000 Ryan Pollock? I know we kind of discussed this in text the other day, but what are your thoughts there when like he's firmly ascended into this mid tier of defensemen around some guys who are like legitimate DFS studs?
I mean, if he was on the power play one, I think he'd be like absolutely the smash play, like must put him in. But with Letty still on the first power play unit, it's kind of tough for me. I still think he's like a very, very, very good play. Any night, 5K is a bit much. I don't know. I think he's worth the price, but also I really wish he was on the first power play.
Yeah, I definitely wish that too. Letty's just not a DFS option, so it's a bit frustrating to watch. But I will admit that after I still don't think it's great, but with Barzell on this team, it makes much more sense to have a lefty like defenseman. When Tavares was the guy holding the puck on the right side, like forget about it. Like that should have been Polak all day long. But I can definitely see the rationale. Like Letty's a fine player, but not a DFS option. So
Yeah.
let's avoid that.
Well, let's
Um,
just look at this 5K range. I mean, you have Dougie Hamilton for 100 more.
yeah,
You have
Dougie.
Muzzin
I
at
mean,
the same price. Like Giordano, 100 cheaper. So I feel like there's a lot of decent options, the good options in this range. I mean, oh, in this same game, we have Mike Matheson, who definitely got really hot. Now maybe cooling off a little bit. So I think there's a lot of good plays in this range. I don't think that Pollock's out of the conversation, but I would say that it's kind of tough because like you're stacking the first line for the Islanders. You're still getting some correlation throughout the game, but you're not getting that power play correlation. So I don't know. I wouldn't even consider trying to stack the second power play as like a viable option. That's not what you want to do. Makes
yeah, I
no
mean,
sense. So
it's probably no surprise to anyone listening, either that or in the group me, but I really prefer the Calgary guys to
yeah,
Pollock. And then going up a little bit, I think Tyson Berry is at a nice price, 5.5. But we can talk about that in a little bit. So from there, let's move on to Ottawa at Carolina. Valentin Zikov had another smash night on Saturday. Gets the same matchup again. Now he's at home. So now we're looking at two NHL games for Zikov. He's got 7 shots on goal, 2 goals, and 2 assists in 25 minutes of ice time. So, you know, 4,000 now. Are you buying in? Are you buying into this, you know, pretty good AHL player playing between Aho and Teravainen? Or how do you stand on the Zikov side of things?
um, I mean, I don't know. I don't think I'll have it personally. I don't really think I'm going to touch this game all that much. I don't think it's a bad game. It's they just played Saturday, right? It's the same
Yeah,
exact
yeah, yeah. It's the same matchup,
the
just
same exact
switching
flip. Yeah.
places.
So
Yeah.
let's just take a little look here. Sorry, I'm taking forever to pull everything up, but looking at the Carolina side, so you're saying he played with the Aho Teravainen. I mean, I don't mind it. Power play wise, he was on with, of course, not the guys he was on the same line with. So it's Zekov, Skinner, Ryan Williams, Hannafin as one unit. So that Hannafin Zekov stack could be like a very cheap way of going about things, but uh, 14 minutes of ice time, I'm not a huge fan, but I don't mind that cheap stack if that's something you're interested in.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'll
I don't think I'm gonna have it, but I don't hate it. I'll say that.
yeah, I'll say that it's not. I have major hesitations, and I will not be playing him at 4,000. I could just be flat out wrong because that's happened before. But you look at his profile, he leads the AHL in goal scoring, yes, but he has like 1.75 shots per game. He's shooting above William Karlsson's shooting percentage this season in like a full year. And then you look at last year when he was in the AHL too for about 50 games. He put up about 1.8, I think, shots per game, and he wasn't shooting 30%, and he was, you know, relatively terrible. I mean, I think he had like a 10 goal season or something in 50 games. I'm just looking for the shot volume. And while it's been there in 2 games and he has really good line mates, I think for the minutes he's getting, which still aren't very high, I'll be looking elsewhere for like value. Um, but I think that's the like statistical case against riding the Zikov bubble.
Yeah, that's fair. But let's look at the other. Well, did you want to say anything else about Carolina, or look at the other side?
Um, I think this Lindholm Skinner combo is producing. Obviously Skinner's kind of snapped out of it, and there's relatively little reason to think that it's not because he's playing with a real center in Elias Lindholm. So I'm, a little bit interested in Skinner at 6,100.
Yeah.
But yeah, we can go to Ottawa.
So we had Eric Carlson back after one of the most tragic things I've read lately. I mean, that was an awful thing that had to happen. I think you mentioned it last pod with Doug, the Eric
Mm-hmm.
Carlson situation. So he was back. power play one with Hoffman, Ryan, Duchesne, and Peugeot. So
So before we talk about it, Carlson actually will not go to
wait,
Carolina.
really?
Yeah,
Wait,
he's
what?
like staying home basically.
Oh my lord. Okay,
Yeah,
well that
so
changes things. I was gonna say because it still said day to day. Okay, but you can look at all these things all at once. I have to. I know I lost the whole slate. I had to reopen the slate on DraftKings on my phone for some reason. I just timed out on me.
yep,
But yeah, all right. So he's not gonna play. So Cody Cece's getting about every single minute.
all of the
Uh,
minutes roughly.
just I mean I would say 25 minimum. Um, so that's there. I don't think he'll be power play one. That'll probably be Thomas Shabbat. Bringing him back into the kind of the fold. I don't even know if we probably mentioned him on the podcast. Like I know we
Yeah,
mentioned him
yeah, we have
before, but
definitely.
I don't remember the last time we said his name. Just know at 3-7 you could do a lot worse. He's I don't even know how to describe him. I would say he's a safe floor guy, with some upside, and I honestly wouldn't even be too opposed at taking a little bit of this Ottawa,
Yeah,
because
he's been good
the
lately.
minutes are so concentrated. They only ran, which now this might change obviously based off the news we just heard from Ace reporter Moody, but they ran 11-7 last game. Probably gonna not do that again with Carlson out. But
Yep.
Zingle for some reason got 24 minutes. I don't know. Him and Peugeot got, I mean, a combined 46 minutes of ice time. So if you're feeling like, man, I don't know, I don't really value money that much, but I being Ottawa's like where I want to put my money on. I feel like because I just don't care. That might be where you go, and they're not the best players, but like that's a lot of minutes and a lot of ice time and power play
Yeah,
time.
and
Zingle ended up going on the first unit at one point. He's just not a big shooter of the puck. But if you're thinking like, like I don't know, you could have a 3 assist game, and Peugeot is, I think, underrated. I think on a better team he would really make some noise. Like you put him on that Tampa one line, like I think he could also produce just like the guys that have been up there. But obviously being surrounded by garbage, he's not gonna have the numbers. So what are your thoughts?
um, I mean, Dzingle's like, I think he's fine, if the minutes are there and so on. Um, but I'm really trying to stay away from these forwards in Ottawa. I think the main, I think, interesting take that I have would be that stacking CC and Shabbat is not a terrible idea. I think the floor will be there. Tuesday when Carlson or Thursday when Carlson was out, Shabbat and Cece were actually the top pairing, and then Cece basically pulled like a Ristolainen and did double duty, playing a ton of minutes with everyone else. So that I think that's an interesting like high upside way, and you could even get like a pass across the point, shot from the point, tip in, and there you go, 4 point play for two defensemen who total like 7,000 total salary. But in as far as the forwards go, I'm frankly not that interested. I love Hoffman, and Dzingel gets decent exposure there, but Tim Peugeot, like they're just not really doing it for me in this matchup. Maybe at home against the Islanders on Tuesday, we can talk about that tomorrow for tomorrow's show. But
Mm.
right here, I don't think I'm that interested.
Okay, that's fair enough. I mean, it's definitely if you have a bunch of like stacks you really are in love with and you need a cheap one. This game has good cheap stacks, but we can move on to
Yep.
Washington at the Rangers.
All right.
The Rangers got their first win in what feels like months
Ever.
against Buffalo. Um, so yeah, that's a thing. I played Zibanejad, and I feel like he. No, I'm thinking of Washington. I played Ovechkin in a night where they scored what like 7 goals, and he didn't
Yep.
have
Yep.
just the most
No,
just the
that's yeah, that's
like
that's how that
Saturday night.
works.
I mean, I didn't put a ton of time and effort into my lineup because I was pretty busy, mainly watching college hockey, so not really actually busy. And I had like so many guys in good spots that didn't go off, surrounded by like a couple smash plays. Um, but Zibanejad way priced up, worth the price, but way up
Oh
there.
my god.
But so why don't we start with the Rangers side? I honestly don't think I'll have much, but Zibanejad definitely worth the price low at 6-2. Like just because his price is going up doesn't mean he's out of consideration. Um, I'm not playing Kreider with him. I think he's kind of more of a solo guy. But is there anyone else on the Rangers? Maybe some of the. I mean, they have some decent, I think, value guys. Any of the maybe cheaper guys interest you?
Pionk has been really, really good.
Yeah.
I literally had no idea who he was when he got called up like 2 or 3 weeks ago, but he's just been producing. He's on that first power play with Zibanejad. Like I don't like to take full credit for it because obviously, anyone who looks at the numbers can see how good Zibanejad's been like shooting the puck. But this run of production for Zibanejad is borderline McKinnon-esque. Like you look at his last 10 games, like that is McKinnon-esque numbers, like that Zibanejad is putting up in the game logs. It's backed up by one of the best shot rates in the entire NHL. Like everything about this is for real. And so I think 6.2 at home against a can be shaky Washington team, I'm buying it. Um, I can't say that I'll be stacking. I don't even like Pionk that much, but Zibanejad as like a one-off play, I think I'll definitely have him in cash games. So just throwing that out there. But I am a little bit hesitant to go elsewhere in this matchup outside of Zibanejad.
That is incredibly fair. I can't imagine anyone would argue with you on that one. So
I don't know. Like Zibanejad was really chalky on. Obviously, it was the Sabres, but
yeah,
I think this run that he's been on, plus people seeing the Capitals as like a bad defensive team, which honestly hasn't been the case lately. Even putting aside that Grubauer shutout, like they've been really, they've been solid defensively. Like so, um, I'm not that in love with like attacking Washington in general, but I think that the Rangers or Zibanejad still makes sense. But I'll let you talk.
oh no, I was just gonna say, do you want to switch gears to Washington? Because I don't really. I think you kind of covered the Rangers pretty well.
Yeah. So Washington got back Kuznetsov on Saturday. He immediately came in and stole all of the goals from Ovi, it appears.
Mm,
That was, you mentioned it, alluded to it. That was pretty frustrating to see Ovechkin get blanked in a game where the power play struck twice. Kuznetsov had a huge game. Backstrom had a huge game. Tom Wilson scored twice on Ovechkin's line, and that just well, not quite on his line, but um, allegedly on his line. I can't really tell you what happened when Wilson scored. I think there were line changes and whatnot, but Ovechkin is still a top play. I'm not letting one game basically put me off the scent. Like that's
no,
I
I
think
think
you're foolish.
better time to get back on. Honestly, I am all aboard Ovechkin. I think he's the top play on the entire slate as well. I'm 100% in on that. Was he back with Kuznetsov? Is that right? Or
Yes, yeah,
okay,
he was playing with Kuznetsov and Wilson.
okay, yeah. So I'm totally down for those two as a stack. I just wanted to make sure. Yeah, put those two together. So yeah, no, it was Burakovsky, Backstrom, and Oshie. Oshie was the second line. I don't even hate that. But I think that I will have a lineup at least with Kuznetsov, Ovechkin, and probably another one with at least Oshie. Maybe also Ovechkin, like stacking the power play a little bit, getting a little bit contrarian. I'm all aboard.
All right.
Definitely like the Capitals tomorrow.
Um, on that note, John Carlson's been really productive lately too. So if you're stacking the power play, you can consider him. I'm not sure how you find that extra thousand to get up from like the Calgary guys from Tyson Berry, but if you do and you're playing Washington, really good play. Let's go to Detroit at Montreal. Pretty much a snoozer here, and I would be, you know, able to just move on except for the fact that we have some decent values here on these two teams that have been, I guess, producing lately. Um, you know, the entire Montreal team is really cheap. Brendan Gallagher been priced up a little bit, but just continues to produce. I think he's definitely cash game viable at home, even at this price, just because I think the shots are absolutely there. And then Dylan Larkin on the other side for 5.5. Um, you know, you mentioned it again and again, but he's just been incredible. So,
Yeah.
that's where do you stand on this game? Do any of these values stand out to you, or are you just kind of like waving them aside and going like, "Nah, let's move on"?
There's a couple one-off plays that I think are definitely considerable, and like Larkin is a guy I had. I think I always have him in consideration at that price. Like I think he's a pretty good player. I feel like your tune has changed a bit on what he could be as a DFS asset. Um, this right now he is definitely in play against any team in any matchup. Like both of these teams have pretty bad defenses to very bad. Like I don't know. And then also Detroit ran, I think they only had 5 defensemen last game. Is that ringing a bell?
Let me take a look because I
Because
did
yeah,
not actually look back at it.
the Hockey Viz looks broke on my phone, but it might
Okay,
be because
so
it's my
that's
phone.
probably what they did. What they do is they dress this Witkowski character, and he plays. I think he plays mostly defense.
I don't know. I
But
didn't watch the game. Whatever.
but
They
yeah,
did
it's
some
definitely broken.
crazy stuff. The Hockey Viz is broken, but anyways, it doesn't really matter. What matters is Larkin. Yes. What's Mantha's price? Is he considerable?
4.9. I think he's reasonable.
Yeah. Okay. Those two, I'm almost positive play them in the same line as well.
Yep. They did.
So
Yeah.
yes, that right there, I am okay. I'm okay with that. And then the other side is probably Gallagher or bust. I don't really think there's a, and maybe Petrie, but probably not. And then if you're getting need a punt, Lekanen and Hudon aren't like the worst options for a punt, but
Yeah.
that probably sums this one up.
Yeah, I would agree there. Mike Riley is really, really consistent. Like he's getting 20 minutes a night, power play two. The price hasn't moved. I'm not a big fan of him, but if you're looking for guys, I think he makes more sense than a guy like Gooley, who we mentioned earlier, for just 100 more. So just a name to keep in mind. I really have nothing else here. Like,
Perfect.
you know, that I think Petrie's a good play too, especially the play with Gallagher. But let's go to Arizona at Tampa. Another relative downer. We mentioned Ovi. Kucherov did the exact same thing. Not trying to take credit for it, but I did play. I did manage to find a way to fit both into my cash lineup. It did not work out well for me, even though I had like smash nights from Nylander and Zibanejad and George Evanet. Everything else went to shit because of those two. So at home against Arizona, uh, same thing. Like, there's really not a great reason to stay away from this one. Maybe it helps to press ownership, but we just talked about Washington a little bit. So if you had to stack like a first line, say like Kuznetsov, Ovechkin versus Stamkos, Kucherov, do you have a lean one way or the other? We know where the sim stands on this one.
I mean, yeah, the sim is probably on the Tampa side of things. Like if they are running 7-11, which they did last game, I'm definitely gonna consider Tampa Bay one as like maybe even like a core kind of
Yeah.
thing I do. But it's gonna be really tough
Yep.
to make that your core because if it's your core, then like you're gonna have to find the punts. I think we've mentioned enough value where you could do it. You might need to sacrifice Ovechkin, but as you mentioned, it's doable. There is a way to do it. You just need to get a really, really lucky night out of a cheap stack. So I'm down with it. Um, you can punt on defense with a couple guys. Yeah, I honestly think running 11-7. That's Stamkos Kucherov, and honestly, you could go Miller Kucherov. That works too, if you want to save a little bit instead of going Stamkos. But
6.8 for JT Miller. Imagine
uh,
making that trade and saying like, man, JT Miller is going to be 7,000 after this trade from New York. Like,
I know.
would anyone have believed you? I don't think so.
I know I don't think he's a bad play. I mean,
Oh
I don't
God.
want it, but you're almost saving a full 800, and Stamkos really has like I don't know. It's so
Yeah,
hard
no,
because
I
there's only
agree.
so
I
many
agree.
shots to go around, but I can't
And
imagine.
Kucherov
I'm
takes most of them. Let's
very excited. Yeah, no, I agree. I'm just very excited to see like the shot tide of the game, and you could just like note exactly when that line's on the ice because it's just
yep,
gonna be
that's
all like I feel like there'd be shots to go around. I also don't think Arizona is completely helpless. I feel like they've actually shown like
yeah,
they're
they've
not
been
the worst.
they've been good. Like I'll say it,
So
they've been pretty good lately.
yeah,
They took an early lead against Florida and got just ran over on Florida's charge back. But outside of that, and even within that game, they showed some good things. Um, you know, I'm not all that worried about what happened against Carolina because I think the goaltenders had like a convention or something where they just stayed out to like 7 a.m. drinking the night before because that game was just a disaster. But like when you look at the underlying numbers, the chance numbers have been pretty good favoring Arizona. Um, so that keeps me away definitely from these value guys, I guess, on Tampa, if you can call them that. I don't even think they are values at this point. Um, but I'm definitely Kucherov, uh, really Kucherov or bust. But Kucherov, Stamkos, Miller, Hedman, or bust for me. And then if you want to look to that power play, Killorn was the fifth member between those four uh, last game. So I guess you could go Killorn, but he sucks. So
Fair enough. So is there anything else we need to mention? I think we're probably good. 10-2, if you're feeling real weird, it's fine. I'm not against it, but like Braden Point's price is just kind of a little too much, I think, still. Like maybe if he was like 600-700 cheaper, but
yeah, I wanna say some of these like Arizona values, but I'm really not in love with any of them enough to the point. And I think we've uncovered a few already that are
that are better.
yeah.
I agree. Chicago, well, San Jose at Chicago. Are you down?
Yeah, let's do it. Um, so we've got Chicago. I think they made the, I guess, big splash when it comes to free agent signings as of now. I think his name is Dylan Sakura. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him, DJ, but I think he played it like, but I'm not even sure where he played. Maybe,
No, me either, honestly.
but I think he signed. I don't think he's playing like Monday night, but a name to keep in mind to see where he slots in. If you want to talk interesting lineup notes, though, Chicago might have had the most interesting line on Saturday night. They played Patrick Kane with Brandon Saad and Alex DeBrincat. As you astute listeners may be aware, those guys aren't centers. None of them are. None of them have ever been. So I found that really interesting. They had a great game, so I'd expect them to stay together. Does that change your perspective on like maybe a guy like Brandon Saad or even DeBrincat, who's been really productive lately? And are you looking at them at home against the San Jose team?
I mean, honestly, anyone with Evander, I mean, Patrick Kane is probably just a better play in general. Um, and now Patrick Kane is actually a center. I'm pretty sure on the slate.
Oh, is he?
Uh,
Yeah, he is. So that's
yes, he
interesting.
is. So now Patrick, and I mean, he's under 7K at
Yeah.
center. Like, I don't hate that play. I don't love the play. I'm kind of just, I'm all right with it. Stacking Chicago isn't my favorite thing to do ever. But
Yeah.
the Sod Kane, maybe Kane to Brinkat. I probably wouldn't go with the full line. Kane wasn't on either the Brinkat or Sod's power play unit.
Yep.
That kind of diminishes their upside a bit. So Kane could be a solo option. That's pretty much all I'm taking from the Chicago side of things here.
Yeah, I'm not going dumpster diving with these other lines. Like for them though, I think Nick Schmaltz is a decent stack with a guy like Hinostroza. They played together at 5-on-5, and Schmaltz is on that first power play with Kane, and Hinostroza is on the second power play with the Brinket Sod, and they're both pretty cheap. Schmaltz has gone up a little bit in price lately, so I'm definitely wary of that. And if you're looking for just total puntage, Artem Anisimov remains really cheap, remains pretty terrible at hockey, but is playing about 17 minutes and will be on that Kane power play. So a couple of punts that I think are interesting. But what I want to talk about here is San Jose because they've been putting up exceptional shot numbers lately. I mean, I've watched most of their games recently, and it feels like they're just getting robbed blind by opposing goalies. So, I'm about all in as you can get on San Jose. Kevin LeBlanc at 3.8 is on that first power play for San Jose. He has been just like I can't even put into words how good his shot numbers are for his price. The production hasn't quite been there yet, but I think a smash game is coming from Kevin LeBlanc, and 3.8 I think is almost a must play for me,
Yeah,
even in limited minutes.
he's the value of the night for sure.
Um,
You're gonna want to heavily consider that guy.
yeah, and then Brent Burns is like really freaking good at hockey. I don't think that should be a surprise to anyone. But against Chicago, I mean, I'm not sure how you don't play that.
Well, the
And
only way you
then,
don't play it is if you try to get the Ovechkin Kucherov, because I can't imagine you could get all of them. So I think it's
well,
going to come down to.
yeah,
Well, obviously you can't.
yeah.
But you could get all of them if you go like 2-8 everywhere else. I'm just going to look. You keep
Let's
talking.
let's let's just not do that. Let's just not even try to build a lineup like that
I'm
because
having fun.
all right. And then Evander Kane is 7,100, but there is nothing about it that doesn't. I think everything about that makes sense. Like he's playing first power play, he's playing a ton of minutes, he is shooting the crap out of the puck. Um, so all three of those guys, I think, are fantastic plays. Um, I'm really not that in on Pavelski, even though he's been fine. I just don't think he's as a focal point as I want to be, like spending this much. Um, but anyone, I mean, does this, am I swinging you on the San Jose side of things? Because I, for one, definitely like them more than
Yeah,
Kucherov and Ovechkin.
I mean, out of all of the teams, if you, especially being like price sensitive, like considering them, I think the San Jose side has probably the best upside comparatively to what you're paying for kind of some stacks on the night. I mean, yeah, Tampa one might end up getting, a little bit more than like LeBlanc and I don't know. What are his line mates right now? Because I can't look at it. He was on
LeBlanc is playing
five
with
by five. Yeah,
Tierney and Timo Meyer.
yeah. So
That's
probably one
another
point off
really interesting
for
stack
Timo.
too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that honestly, you could be onto something there, like Timo Meyer, LeBlanc stack. But I feel
and
like we've said it
Chris
differently every
Tierney's been
podcast.
good too.
He
I'm
has
I'm
been good.
going I'm going LeBlanc.
LeBlanc,
Tonight's the LeBlanc night.
tonight's LeBlanc because like LeBance, I feel like one time you were like
Uh,
LeBron.
I think LeBant is what I
LeBance.
heard before too.
Yeah, dude, I swear,
Take it to LeBanc. I
I don't
mean,
think it's us. I don't think it's us.
after he smashes, we're gonna take it to LeBanc. So
All right,
that's
perfect.
yeah.
Okay. So, do you want to hear my lineup I came out with
Oh my
Kucherov,
God.
Ovechkin, Miller?
Just sure.
All you need to do is stack Peugeot, Shabbat, and Zingle. Is it the Zingle? Like, how hard is it to even?
Yeah, I think the single.
Okay, and then you might have to pull the Olmark Laner, but that's up to you.
Okay.
And then, well, you don't have to. Like, I basically what I did was I went Peugeot, Shabbat, Zingle, and then I was like, okay, well, now I have to pick a goalie and a center, and I'm like, well, if I pick Freddie Anderson, the most expensive goalie, you have 3.6 for your last center spot. And
Hmm.
if you go all the way to the bottom, you could have about 5K. So this lineup, you could do all three of them and get a stack that's there. And another idea there could be to take LeBlanc. LeBlanc,
With
we're going with
Tierney or
with
something, yeah.
Tierney.
And then get Burns.
Tierney
Yep, yep, yep.
Tierney is a center. He's just about 4K. So you could do this. Obviously, another
Definitely.
yeah, there's a lot of things that I think I'm going to play with this a lot. I don't know if I'm going to end up with Kucherov and Ovechkin. I might end up trying to look into Stamkos, Kucherov, and stuff like that. But this is something to toy with. I like those as probably my top plays overall. I know we're not quite done with the slate yet, but like those kind of lines, obviously, they're expensive, but those are the top three. I'm pretty sure there's nothing else is going to come up to change my mind. Nope. So yeah.
All right. So if you want to move on from here, we got two games left. Colorado at Vegas. Played in one of the most up tempo shootout 1-1 finishes I've ever seen. Um, like that was a really, really fun game to watch, I must say. And they're doing it again on Monday night, this time in Vegas. The Fighting McKinnons certainly are not cheap, but they've actually come down a little bit in price since the last time they played. All four of the main guys, in my opinion, between McKinnon, Landeskog, Rantanen, and Tyson Berry, are pretty cheap. Um, I'm really struggling with this slate in terms of where I want to spend up on, just because it feels like there's good values even at the top end. Like sometimes you look at a slate and you're like, well, they're, you know, 66% or two-thirds of the slate is just too expensive. So
Mhm.
that leaves, basically the rest, the pick to sort through. But I think here, like a guy like McKinnon not being the highest priced player on a slate is interesting just because they rely on him so much. Um,
Yeah.
are you kind of buying in on this McKinnon race to the playoffs? Are you hoping to see him come April, or are you hoping for a team like LA or even St. Louis to kind of like jump him to get a more veteran presence, better defensive team in there?
No, I'm all aboard Colorado making the playoffs. I mean, why not? Who cares? I mean, I don't know. Honestly, I feel bad saying this, Bobby, but I just don't want to see LA. Sorry.
Yeah,
You get your
Yeah.
shout out, you get your podcast shout out, but I just don't want to see LA again. Nothing really against any of the individual players. I'm just kind of like, I'm over them. And I have one friend that always makes fun of the Sabres, and he's an LA fan. So, uh, yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
the spite levels are high there.
It's
Um,
unreal that he would make fun of the Sabres. I mean, come on, like have some class, some dignity. Like they're already dead.
pick on someone your own size,
Pick on
man.
someone of your
Yeah.
own size. But anyways, from this game, top play in my opinion is Tyson Berry. And then very easy to stack with McKinnon. Obviously, we've mentioned so many top price plays that this could be if you do make a lineup and you're really trying to get contrarian. You know, we've already I do like mentioning the plays that I think will be contrarian. I don't think this is a really contrarian thing, but I think a lot of people will be spending up on Tampa and they will be spending up on maybe probably Washington, so they won't spend
Yep.
up on Colorado against Vegas, and that could be a spot to go. I think even more contrarian might be going with the Vegas one as a stack as well. That's going to be very, very, very underowned.
Hmm.
I guarantee people in the group me will have it because I think the group me loves Vegas and they love it because it keeps making them money. So, do you want to just touch on the Vegas side?
Yeah, I think Vegas is um like their Vegas well, sorry, their odds right now in the sports books. Let's not just call it Vegas anymore because there's a team now. Um, but they're actually minus 175 favorites here at home, which is pretty big. I don't know if I would expected it to be that high, just because Colorado has been pretty good. Um, but they're just not giving like a ton of minutes like Colorado is McKinnon to this first line. You see it in that March or so is just really not playing the same number of minutes that a guy like McKinnon is. And that makes it really tough for me to spend when he's not shooting at the elite rate like he was to start the year. He's still, shooting fine, but a guy like Thomas Tatar actually has a better 5-on-5 shot rate since Tatar's joined the team. So I think if I'm looking at Vegas, it's more of a one-off for guys like Tatar or Shea Theodore. Um, but I certainly do think Marchessault is a fine addition to like a Theodore Tatar stack, but I'm just not really looking to do it myself because these other guys are just jumping out way, way more off the screen to me.
I mean, I know the last score will kind of confuse people, but as you mentioned, this game was extremely up tempo, very very high, like in chances and whatnot, and only ended up being 1-1 going into a shootout. So, do you think there's any merit to considering this as a game stack, or do you think that teams playing kind of back to backs against each other with days rest is, I have no idea. Like it's probably such a small sample size of like actual tangible like numbers
Right.
to say like, oh, a team playing a team in a back to back is worse or better. Like it probably doesn't really matter that much. I'm just saying, like, if you, I don't, I know neither of us might have a game stack here, but like, I don't think it's the worst idea because it seems like both of these teams, when it's a tight game, are not afraid at all of rolling the top guys a little bit more. Theodore was having a great game. He saw the minutes. Like,
He did. That is
he
very
saw the
true.
minutes. He shot the puck, what, 10 shots on goal?
8.
Eight? Yeah, he had eight. Yeah, okay.
Pretty good.
Pretty good. So 4K for Theodore. That's where you're gonna want to go with a stack. And I do think Marchessault Tuck, Theodore could be a little bit less. I mean, it's 9 games, so ownership is going to be whatever.
Pretty
So
spread out, I think.
yeah, I think it'll be pretty spread out. But I don't think people are going to be targeting Vegas maybe as much as normal. So I'm considering the game stack, especially if you're rolling a lot of lineups. Like I'd have one that just kind of goes McKinnon, Barry, Marchessault, Theodore, maybe a little Tatar in there.
All right, nice.
Spicy takes.
Cool. So let's go to the last game, Calgary at LA. I think there's more fantasy goodness here than initially meets the eye. We mentioned Dougie Hamilton and Mark Giordano. Dougie Hamilton is just, I think he's an absolute lock here. Like, just look at his game logs and the floor numbers he's putting up. I know Calgary is not a good team, but Dougie Hamilton can get you value without, like, literally without putting up a point. And when he does have like a game where the pucks go in, like they lost 5-2 to Arizona the other day, just embarrassing. But 9 points because he had 6 shots on goal, 2 block shots, a goal, and an assist. Like as long as the goalies aren't like going Jesus mode against them, which sadly kind of has been the case lately, Dougie Hamilton has massive upside, and he's not going to kill you even when like Calgary does lose. Like I'm not really sure why his price is this far down. Um, like his shot rate over the past 10, 20 season is right up there among the elites on this in the NHL, like the really, Burns is the only comparable to him, maybe outside of Seth Jones. And Dougie Hamilton's blown Burns away over the last like 10 and 20 games. So, um, and I know I'm personally locking in Dougie. That might be a hot take. I'm not really sure. LA's minus 200 here. So, does anyone on the LA side interest you, though, DJ?
Well, Calgary is so incredibly banged up that honestly, I'm not really interested in anyone on them outside of Dougie. I mean, although you can think about the other way of saying that there could be some value here. I have no idea. Gaudreau is now out. The Chuck is out, and
Wait,
Mono.
sorry. Oh yeah. Oh my God, Gaudreau got hurt.
Yeah, Gaudreau got hurt, so
Oh
he's
my
out.
God, I forgot about
The
that.
only thing I will say is like Michael Frolik could be power play one, like, and 4-3, like he had a deep like I don't know where the minutes are gonna go. I think they'll still try to roll four lines the best they can. It's gonna be one of those things where we have to wait till tomorrow till we know really anything about Calgary. But like I'm saying, I don't think I'm gonna touch them. I think they're gonna try to slow pace as much as physically possible. Are you okay?
Yeah, I think I just grazed my microphone.
Oh, I'm scared. It was really loud in my ears. Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Um, it probably won't show up as bad. Anyways, though, yeah, kind of thinking I'm just gonna fade this game. I think Calgary is gonna try to slow pace as much as possible. We know LA can possess the puck very well, so if you like LA, I don't mind it. But Calgary, I might just stay away from. I don't think they're gonna have a lot of upside in this matchup.
All right, and if you're looking for the next Mika Zibanejad, I mean, it's not like he's been bad, but Jeff Carter is still really cheap.
Yeah.
I don't see how he's not right in that cash game considerations. I think he's not quite a cash lock, but I'm not really sure actually at this point where I would go if I had to pick between like Zibanejad and Carter. I honestly think I would though. I think I would take the 500 and go with Carter. Um, I'll probably end up playing both though, in all honesty, just because I think they're both exceptional values. But Carter is first power play. He's second line center. But what's nice about it is that he gets a little bit of run with Kopitar and Dustin Brown. Like he kind of steps in to take a center or a wing shift every now and then. And his shot numbers have been really strong lately too. I think he's getting better by the day, like in terms of obviously he was out for a long time due to injury. We kind of saw it with like Jack Eichel last year. It took him maybe half a I don't know a month to get fully right, and then after that he was like literally one of the best players in the NHL. I think we're going to see that same thing with Carter, and jumping in at 5.7 while they're in a playoff push against a banged up Calgary team, I think makes perfect sense at that depressed price.
All right. Yeah.
All right. So looking at the defense, I think Drew Doughty's much too expensive. Jake Muzzin really not interesting at 5K. Um, are you seeing any values here for LA, or do you just kind of want to close it out with goals? And
Yeah.
all right,
Well, let's do our stacks first. I mean, I think it's pretty easy. There's a lot of stacks we like, so Matt, I'll let you go first.
all right. I'm gonna go with the Brent Burns, Kevin LeBlanc, and Evander Kane power play one stack for San Jose. If you're looking to add even more value to that, I really do not mind adding in either Timo Meier or Chris Tierney. I believe Tierney's like 3.7 and Meier's 4,000 at the wing and center positions, like respectively. So I think that's an interesting little stack that I love, and I'm gonna keep playing them until they get the goals to match their shot numbers.
Well, thanks for taking my cheap stack. I
It was
guess
mine first.
it was. I let you go first because I feel like I always steal your stacks.
Hey, I'm a good salesman.
I just imagine like taking someone's like double stack at Wendy's. Like, don't take my stack. I don't know why. Anyway, Tampa won. I'm just gonna go with it. I'm gonna be a fish. Everyone's gonna be on it. It's like very obvious, but I think just I'm gonna want it. I just think it is the best stack on the night. So I would say price not considered. That's my favorite stack of the entire evening. Um, yeah.
All right.
I feel like that's not my brand. My brand should have been. I should have gone with Vegas once to go back to that. I don't know why. I'm really starting to get into it for some reason. But
Huh. Nice.
I
Yeah.
don't know what it is. I'm gonna have to look into the numbers more because I have nothing really in front of me like you have right now because my laptop isn't working. But it's speaking to me. The gut is speaking to me.
And, it's never a bad idea to trust it when that you're confident you've put in the research in the beforehand. Like obviously what Vegas is
So
done, whatever. So
so for
I
my
can
cheap
buy it.
one, I'll just go with it. Theodore and Tatar, and then it might make it a bit more expensive, but Marchessault.
Nice.
I like that. So I'll
I
send it to you.
I buy it. Um, I'm gonna go. I think you can make an argument that San Jose could fit both of the criteria, but another stack that I think can kind of fit either just high priced or just both. The Toronto Matthews Nylander. You can go Gardner with them. You could even go. I think Andreas Janssen, if that's actually I think Janssen's how you say it. 2.9 played 13 minutes last game. He's on that power play though with Matthews and Nylander. I'm not sure if Janssen will stay in the lineup, but if he's in the lineup and we can kind of confirm that he'll be on a power play role, I think he makes sense to throw with like Matthews and Nylander. Um, yes, Chris Denny. I did say the name Jake Gardner. I'm not doing it myself, but I think if you do play it, I think he gets the minutes and the power play exposure that I want here. And it's against Buffalo, so literally anything can happen. Even Jay Gardner having a good daily fantasy game.
That's a bold take. Okay. Hey, one more thing, one more note. Uh, nope, never mind. It's really not important. I was gonna say something about James Neal. I know he had a really good game last game. But I don't have his lineup right now.
Uh,
He did not take over Tatar at all, right? Like Tatar was still firmly.
Correct. Yeah, Tatar. So that was actually kind of their first line in terms of usage last game, which was
Yeah.
interesting.
Which one? Say it.
The Neil Perron Hollow line.
What do you think of that line though? Before I guess we close with our guaranteed goals, because I'm just kind of like looking into things. Obviously, a lot slower pace than you, and I'm like, whoa, that's kind of jumping.
Man, I'm not a big fan of the three plays like as individuals.
Yeah,
So,
fair
I'm
enough.
not gonna say they can't, they're all much cheaper than they were, like I think even like a month ago, but they're fine. But I don't think they have the shot numbers that I want to see.
All right, that's fair. All right, so why don't we just get into our guaranteed goals? Do you have anyone off the top?
Um, I'm gonna, you know, let's uh let's just do this. Or wait, no, I can't quite. No, I can't fit Zibanejad and Carter together.
Ooh, that would have been fun though.
Yeah, or well, actually, they do. They are a combined 11.9. So, all
All right, I have mine. I need
right, go
some
for it.
McKinnon, LeBlanc,
Ooh,
Rocket.
McKinnon. Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
I think he out of all of the
He's getting
centers,
back on
yeah, like him and Matthews, I think are both like very good takes here for a guaranteed goal. But I'm gonna go McKinnon. So
it. All right. I'm gonna go with Carter. Instead of taking Zibanejad, just because I think the hot run has to end at some point. Um, man, do I go back to the Willie Nylander? Well, I think I will. I
that's
played him.
it.
I played him as my stack. You know what? Screw
Do
it.
whatever
Willie
you want.
Nylander scoring again. He's gonna be smash spot until he gets priced up back to the 6,000 he was at before Matthews got hurt. So I think that adding that value, the $600 in savings, um, I think those are the little things you have to look for in DFS. And this is obviously the matchup that Nylander could exploit. So let's leave it there. Anything you want to add before we head off to? I know you're going to a fantasy draft for
Yeah,
baseball, I'm assuming.
yeah, baseball. I'm not really going anywhere. Just online. A bunch of my friends from school. We're all kind of all over the place now, but we're like, let's get some fantasy baseball going. I honestly like don't like season long that much anymore at all.
It's terrible.
It's awful. In hockey that like we're in playoffs together, but like we were in the constellation bracket because we never checked.
Really?
We had one friend that literally, I mean, Justin, for if you're wondering, you can make like 10 roster moves in a week, and he would use it every single week, all 10 moves.
It's
And like,
insane.
he's gonna probably win it. The finals are starting tomorrow, and
Oh,
we
okay.
did terrible in season long. So if you're wondering if you ever need season long advice, like, don't take it from us.
It's just so pointless to check every day. Like I played
Yeah,
DFS, like it's just not worth it.
you had a
But
really good team too. It's kind of sad that it went to waste.
I know. I got Eichel in like the fourth round. Like it was just disgusting. Like, and these are Sabres fans too. Like, what else in fantasy are you looking for besides shots and goals and like whatever? Um, but let's let's just put this show to an end right there. We'll be back for Tuesday's slate as well, so look forward to that one. As always, if you have any feedback or just want to ask a question or something, you can find us on Twitter at WinsgatePod. We would always appreciate your interaction. Be sure to give us a follow. Check out the website, morningsgatepod.com. Doug's sim is up there, the projections model. It's been pretty hot fire. If you obviously noticed Doug's 56-point score on Thursday. That was pretty much in due in large part just because he put together a team and was like, hey, do these plays make sense? I look at it, I'm like, yeah, you can make like that one change there, but it had guys like Pullock in, it had Anders Lee as like the top value wing. It was right on the money. And I found it to be a really useful resource in building lineups. So be sure to check that out if you've yet to at morningsgatepod.com. And be sure to follow us on Twitter. DJ's at our individual Twitters at DJ_Mitchell94. And I am at Fake Moods. So, yeah, let's finally sign off. From Doug, from DJ, and from myself. Have a good slate, everybody. And we will see ya.